So it is the first time those AIs faces each other in this tournament. They recently played against each other, but it was in the ladder hosted by Leif Erikson, but it was on the up version of the game. And I would say that in that ladder, Promi tends to win against Odette, but it was an older version of Odette participating to the ladder like 3 months ago. I think that the latest update made Odette a bit stronger, so that's going to be interesting to compare. So here as a blue player we are watching Promi, which does have well, a decent map. We've got the gold and the mills and the butchers really close to the TC. It decided to go for that forest as the main first forest, which is really close to the TC, but maybe kind of exposed. We do have a good forest in the back that could help in the feudal age maybe. And Odetta's commands at the right of the map. Interesting forest which could be used if Odette would wall its map, but it probably won't be the case because Odette doesn't wall in 1v1 and 2v2. It can sometimes wall in team games. So the forest picked is gonna be quite exposed too, same as Promi. Commands is definitely not the best eve for Odette, which won't build a second TC in the feudal age. So we won't see rams in the early game. So he doesn't use the benefits of this civilization. Unfortunately, it's something I should work. In general, I would say that Odette plays better with the thieves from the up version of the game and the Warlord Kingdoms. Actually, the start looks to be fine for both of the players. Oh, maybe Promi didn't find that boar. That can be a fortunate. At least it does have some deers, not too far. But the second boar should be found probably right now. Okay, the situation is safe. Let's have a look about the map. Stone is really exposed for Promi. We do have a decent second gold. The first gold, the main gold, is in a good position anyway. Now the question is, what are going to be the strategies selected by the players? As Pulse, I don't have any idea. For Odette, maybe a Scott Rush. And okay, Promi is already researching Castle Age. Feudal Feudal Age, sorry. Castle Age would be really fast. And I would say that it's not that great Dark Age for Odette. But at least it will reach Feudal Age before the 12th minutes of the game. Hello Zonai Panda, hello Rorik. Oh, Rorik, you say Promi go for scouts with spawns? Interesting. Are you sure about this? I've never seen Promi going for scouts with any civilization. So that would be a surprise for me. At least I know that the Horde would go for scouts with some of the civilizations, but Promi I've never seen this. Okay, interesting. Odette goes for archery units, and it might go for skirmishes, I guess, because it built one mining camp, but it's actually not mining camp. Oh man, I really don't know my own AI because I see that Odette is building a second TC. What the fuck? I sometimes surprise myself, I would say. Now I'm kind of scared because maybe I was drunk when I made Odette going for a second TC in Feudal Age. But if I was too drunk, I'm scared that Odette is gonna go for something weird. And the other side, oh, we've got one stable and 2 scouts. But Odette already found those 2 scouts, so it might respond with pikemen. Yes. Well, it's a spearman, it's not a pikeman. So here we go. Okay, so the first assault from Promi was not impressive, I would say. At least that third scout is going to be safe, or maybe it will be attacked. No, by the scout. Okay. Kill ratio is actually at the benefits of Odette. Quite easy game for Odette at this point. But we've got one tower, and God knows how towers are something pretty hard for Esty's AI in general. So we've got skirmishers, archers, and we've got fletching. Same for Odette, okay. Well, kind of passive after those first assault. Now let's have a look about the civilian population on both sides. It's pretty equal. A pretty small advantage for Odette, which does have one villager more than its opponent. Well, almost one. That archer is gonna die. Well, I would say that the scout is coming a bit too late in the fight. Now the kill ratio is probably at the advantage of Promi, but the score is pretty close. Okay, so I forgot that we've got at least those 2 TCs for Odette, which uses it in a decent way. And now we've got 5 more villagers for Odette. just because of that second TC. And this time it would be interesting if Odette would find this lumber camp. It looks to be the case. So maybe some harassment. And of course Promi is doing a good job going for skirmishers against those archers. Forcing Odette to go for skirmishers now. I think that Odette trained too many archers. Okay, so we've got Odette researching Castle Age, and okay, a big advantage here for Promi. Let's see if it can take any real advantage from that early Castle Age. At least it does have one stable, so we should see some knights. Yep, we've got knight from two stables. Okay. Okay, we've got 44 villagers for Promi and 56 for Odette. So the early castle age is going to be pretty important. At least Odette will need to survive. It's interesting to see that Promi went for elite skirmishers. And here we go, we've got scalebarding already researched for Promi. Okay, so what is going to be the army composition for Odette? Knights. Elite skirmisher researched, but it's gonna be only for 6 skirmishers. Okay, but Kenaro is researched for both of them. And now Promi is taking the advantage in the civilian population. 5 more villagers. While Promi is staying with 1 TC only. Oh no, 2 TCs. And a third one. Okay, the ram is coming. Game it looks to be already over. Well, as I said at start, Odette is not great with those civilization-like commands. Okay, we are eventually watching some good micros. And it makes Promi scared, of course. Promi thinking that micro is pretty powerful. Yeah, that's really scary. Even for knights, which +2 defense. Odette needs a miracle at this point. Well, it looks like Promi knows how to play with Pulse. I think that Winchester definitely should watch this game and learn from Pulse. So population at this point. Okay, so Promi does have the double the population to Odette, so I think that we can give the admin win. Definitely deserved. Yes, that's possible in Night Panda. In fact, I think that somewhere there is a gather point. So let's go for the score. One zero. And here we go for the second game. Civilizations are gonna be Mongols for Odette and Magia for Promi. Well, the kill ratio is devastating. So Magia is Hongrois in French. Where is Hongrois? Okay, that's here. Okay, I'm gonna double check for the thieves. Mongol, Magyar, okay. Yeah, in fact, Esty had a terrible issue, but it was worse than what we saw with Odette. But in fact, I think that I used a gather point, and I definitely should see where I used it, but okay, so here we go. Isn't it a perfect timing for the second boar, honestly? I don't like much the position of the lumber camp. Interesting to notice that Promi goes for a second lumber camp and doesn't build any farms. Maybe it goes for arches this time. Okay, so we've got the mining camp. It means that Odette won't go for scouts. And once again, Promi is the fastest in researching Feudal Age, with 20 villagers. Okay, so one stable. It looks to be a main strategy now for Promi. I don't know how much offwo worked on the GEI. Maybe it's something from that scripter. I don't know. Oh man, that debugging is boring. So we don't see any tower this time. Let's see how Odette is gonna perform without any defensive tower for Promi. A way to start pushing and to maintain the pressure. Okay, it stopped debugging. Okay, that tower is attempted to be built, but definitely too late at this point. It's maybe gonna try to find another position for the tower. Do we have fletching? Nope, no fletching. Because no blacksmith. Oh yes, we've got one blacksmith. Okay, we got fletching eventually. Oh, a third archery range now for Promi. Which is pretty far from researching castle. Well, population is clearly at the advantage of Odette. It does have 3 more villagers, and at least it does have army, while Promi does have anything except that scout, which is just dead. And now Odette is trying to chase some villagers. That can be the opportunity maybe for Promi to build the defensive tower. Fortunately for Promi, it does have a third lumber camp. And Odette didn't find it. Well, Odette is too busy trying to kill some villagers with those inefficient skirmishers. Skirmishers. I would like to see some archers in this composition. Well, for not training any military, maybe Promi is gonna be able to research castle before its opponent. We've got 4 archer ranges, wow. I don't get the point. Why 4 archer ranges while Promi doesn't train any military? I think that we are gonna have a 1-1. We have the same amount of villagers, but all that is in Castle Age. Yes, Odette use Duke lumber camp. But it's not always efficient, I would say. It's less sophisticated than what you did for Rehoboam. Okay, of course, when skirmishers are in elite skirmishers, the hit and run against villagers works way better. So, looking at the population, we've got few skirmishers, 2 skirmishers for Promi. I think I'm close to give the admin win to Odette. I'm just looking for a 5th archer range. But I think that Promi has a lake of wood for this. So as I said before, as commands are few more recent civilizations, Odette will probably perform less good than with the good old civilizations like Mongols. At least that game was more convincing from Odette than the previous one. Oh, we've got a lumbercamp push now from Promi. Okay, I just increase the speed. It is just question of time now. Do we have +2? No, we don't have +2 defense for the knights. Okay, with Shenbirding, Odette is no more scared with OTC. So let's update the score and let's go for the next game. Okay. So let me check the civilization this time. I don't know why, but the music just gave up. So this time we've got Incas for Odette against Korean for Promi. Well, as in case, we should see some drush from Odette. Here we go. There is a boar. There is a boar just here. Let's see if the scout is gonna find it. Oh yes, the villagers found it. Fortunately for that. Pretty nice circle explored by the AI, honestly. It's almost a perfect circle. Just for this, Odette should have the admin win. Honestly, it's really beautiful. Look at this. Pretty decent drawing, I would say. And the scout is not breaking this drawing. It is respecting the job made by the ships. Staying inside of the circle. What about Promi? Well, the circle is really horrible from Promi. Pretty bad drawing, I would say. Just compare, man. Compare. So as I said, I think that Odette is gonna go for a drush. Well, it's not a drush, it's a militia rush. And from what I've read from Promi, it looks like it goes for skirmishes. Except if it changed its strategy. Okay, so in fact, we've got the barrack, we've got the mining camp. So after having started thrashing, well, making munitions, it should go for some archery units. Second. So at least the fact that Promi decided to go for skirmishers, it's quite a bad idea. It's a bad news for Promi. But let's see what's gonna be the behavior of the villagers attacked by the men at arms. At least we've got some idle time, actually. And okay, we got one villager dead. Two HP. Yep. Oh, that villager is gonna die. No. Okay, so we've got our transition with skirmisher. So we've got some idle time, but nothing too scary for Promi at this point. So we've got +1 attack, +1 defense for the skirmishers from his side. Let's compare the economy. Okay, 34 villagers for Promi and 37, maybe because Promi did do research. Well, barrow, yes. Okay, so we've got once again 3 archer ranges. I think that at this point Promi does have a good chance because it does have a better economy than its opponent, if I'm right. Yeah. It does have a crazy amount of food. So definitely now, all is about the ability for them to harass its opponents. We've got some eagles, which might help a bit on it. And okay, so Promi is managing to have a pretty good castle time. And now Promi is attempting to build a tower. Probably too late. Anyway, we've got one stable. So of course Odette didn't see the stable, so it will be surprised by the knight. Yep, the knight is seen, so we should see a spearman coming. Well, this game sounds pretty good for me, I would say. Priority is given to the villagers. We got one stable, while we've got 3 unused archer ranges. Okay, good idea for Odette to have research Spikeman. At this point it's pretty important. We've got elite skirmishers plus Spikeman. Now it's all about the capacity to boom while being attacked for Promi. At least it does have the opportunity to go to train Mangonel if needed. And I think that it's needed at this point. Or it will be pretty disturbed. Side we've got 2 PCs. And a third one, okay. Well, the score is pretty close, but it looks like that game is gonna reach the Imperial Age, maybe for both of the AIs. Okay, so we've got one Mangonel. So that can be a disaster maybe for those skirmishers. Voila! Okay, the infantry is scared from the TC, so that's why he didn't attempt to attack the Mangonel. But of course, with those two Mangonels, I think that Promi is now in a pretty safe position. So let's compare the population. We've got 74 villagers for Promi against 79 for Odette. And well, the economy is kind of similar, I would say. So the game is close. I would have liked to see those villagers attacking this Mangonel. That would have been helpful for that. I think that Promi is gonna manage to research Imperial Age before its opponent because it's not training that many units. Just a few Mangonel and like a very few army. Okay, I was wrong. Odette is eventually researching Imperial Age right now. So the main unit is probably going to be Eagles, which should help of course against those Mangonels, which scares any range unit. So we've got two very different styles, with Odette, which is aggressive from the beginning, and Promi, which stays very defensive, conservative, and it tends to defend very well, I would say, with the few units needed to survive, like those Mangonels and a few Knights. Okay, so now let's see if Promi managed to push. It's probably the moment, because Promi will have a very hard time pretty soon now. Imperial Age at 38 minutes. I would say that it's decent, reading the fact that Odette get training a lot of units during the whole game. Okay, so there is clearly a window now for Odette because Promi is actually researching Imperial. It can be pretty strong as Korean, but I don't see any castle at this point. are gonna see some champions, maybe? And the Odette side, we see that it's actually researching slowly the upgrade for the infantry. Okay, so we've got Elite Eagles Warrior. And we've got one castle, okay. One castle only, the second one here. At least the war wagons can be an option. Let's compare the population at this point. Okay. Civilian population is almost the same now, it's all about the military population. Unfortunately, Odette did build its new lumber camp in a pretty bad position, making the game harder for it. I don't see any decent lumber camp in a safer place. And Promi is giving a lesson on how to build decent lumber camps everywhere. Something that, yeah, that doesn't know how to build decent lumber camps. Well, I would say that Promi is actually surviving pretty well. Well, I can smell a comeback from Promi. Okay, eventually we've got one trebuchet and siege rams. Well, in its corner, this eagle is disturbing a few gold minerals. Well, the lake of Lamberkamp is clearly an issue for Odette. Okay, it eventually managed to be full population. It does have the double population compared to the Promi. And we've got a bunch of bushes. Okay, so no comeback for Promi eventually. Hello Fireball, you're welcome. No, it's definitely not the final. Well, we've got several finals in this tournament. We've got 3 finals. The final of the winner bracket, opposing Rogun to Barbarian. We've got well, we've got 3 finals. The final of the loser bracket, which will oppose the winner between Promi and Odette, and the general. And then we've got the grand final. So the score is 2-1. I would say that it's a pretty intense series between those 2 AIs. The games are close. And let's go for the next match. Which is gonna be Italian against Sicilian. Well, I think that there is an issue with my microphone. Maybe you didn't hear what I was saying. Okay, so here we go. So we've got Italian for Odette, Sicilian for Promi. Yeah, so hello firewall. Well, I would say that in this tournament we've got many strong AIs with their own style, which make every match pretty interesting. Especially when AIs can have several strategies and can play several civilizations. At least when we have Panda against the general for a best of 5 or best of 7, it can be kind of boring after the first 3 games, to be honest. But I think that this Promi against Odette is really interesting. We already saw various strategies. I would like to see Odette go for a Scout Rush. It will depend on its start. For a Scout Rush it needs to have a good start, of course. And as Sicilian, I don't know what is gonna do Promi. It looks like Promi tends to go for scouts pretty often with those recent versions of this AI. Okay, so here we go. I'm just waiting for the chat where Promi will tell what is gonna be its strategy, so I stay focused. I will flush with range units, okay. Okay. Well, pretty decent map for Promi. The main goal, the main stone in the back. Maybe the forest can be a problem, it depends on how aggressive he's gonna attack Odette. In his corner, Odette does have already exposed gold and stone. Okay, so that's when my DUC for lumber camp works. It's built in a pretty decent area. Well, it's interesting to see that Promi and Odette do have similar way to explore in circle. And the road will be quite long for Odette to reach his opponent. So it looks like Promi tends to be really fast in researching Feudal Age in general. I think that in every single game it was faster than Odette. Okay, one unique archer range. Odette does have already two archer range, maybe because the lumber camp was in a good position this time for Odette. That helps. I'm just realizing that it goes for one unique lumber camp, which can be sometimes quite risky. Okay, so we've got 3 archers against 2 skirmishers and 1 archer. Okay, so that one spearman is just from my new update from Promi for Odette. It was a very small update just to make the spearman coming to help the skirmishers to survive from the potential attack from scouts. It didn't help in this game, but anyway, it can sometimes help, let's say. Pretty intense fight. Okay, Promi should win that fight just because he does have fletching. And this scout is doing a very good job. Just disturbing its opponent. Okay. Maybe we need some music to make that moment a more epic moment. Okay, so overall it looks like microing those skirmishers didn't help for Odette. Well, this game looks like the first game when Odette was command. Regarding the scenario of this game, the first assault was a mess, and Promi managed to go faster than its opponent Castle Age. Okay, we've got a double fight, a double assault. And Promi doesn't have any tower. That can be a problem maybe for Promi. Oh, we've got one stable. Does it mean that Promi is actually researching castle? Well, I would say that it's a good fight for Odette at this point. We've got a good reaction from the villagers Odette side. Okay, but I think that this castle each time is gonna hurt Odette a lot. Well, Odette is not too far from researching castle, but it will depend on the army composition Odette side. At least it couldn't build the stable. Okay, that stable is here, so we go for one unique stable and a bunch of archery ranges, 3 this time. Okay. I would say that the Odette's micro, especially with skirmishers, is really effective from the castle age. In the feudal age, it's not really efficient, so it will need to hit and run now against those knights, which are really scary. +1 defense. Okay, one precious spearman. Okay, so what's gonna be the army composition for red? We've got one stable, 2 archer ranges, now 3 archer ranges. So it's really similar to Promi military building. Okay, we've got elite skirmisher in the way. That's done, so let's see now. We've got Bodkin Arrow already researched. So, of course, Promi does have an economy advantage for having reached castle way faster than its opponent. It Actually, it's actually running with 3 TCs. Actually, we've got a second TC under construction. Oh, a third, which is really close to the enemy. I'm not convinced by this choice. And as Sicilian, it looks like it just loves knights. But it stays with one unique stable and at this point. I would say that this town center is pretty important for Promi. It works like a tower, preventing Odette to enter inside of the enemy's economy. But well, the bad point for Promi is the fact that those villagers are not working, just kept being idle. It's gonna be interesting to see how long those skirmishers are gonna stay alive from the feudal age against those knights, which are just afraid to attack. So it's interesting to notice that everything is happening in this small corner of the map. And Promi is eventually investing a lot in the military population, and that way it maybe can be in a good position to start pressing its opponents. Well, there is a huge difference in the score. Okay, exactly the same civilian population. A pretty small advantage in military population for Odette, but the big difference is the fact that Promi is researching Imperial Age a bit faster than its opponents. And that can be really important in the very early Imperial Age. Where is the military population for Promi? Okay, that's a bunch of skirmishers. One mangonel. One spearman. We've got a castle in a decent position. Okay, so as Sicilian, what is gonna be the military population for Promi? Okay, we've got some sergeants. And do we have any castle for Odette? Yes. It will go for that unit. I don't know the name in English. Genoese Arbalest, something, yes, something like that. Okay, so let's go for a big Imperial Age fight. And fortunately we've got a new TC for that. Okay, so we've got Sergeant Alberdiers, skirmishers, a bunch of mangonels. That definitely can work against the army composition for its opponents. Well, the sergeants are doing the job. They look kind of unstoppable at this point. Well, it looks like the Genoese crossbowmen are definitely not the best unit against those sergeants. Yeah, I think that the game is over. Yeah, Promi is full population. Yeah, it's what I was thinking, Panda. Hand cannoners could have been the option in this situation. But the thing is, I didn't make any counter to this unit, the sergeant. So Odette just don't care about that unit, and that's a big issue actually for Odette and my wall AIs, which are not updated in that way to consider the new units like this one. Okay, so 2-2, it's a pretty close set. Hello Marathon, you're welcome. So we will have a 3-2 for one of the AIs. And the civilizations are Teutonic against Burgundians. So here we go, man. This is a deciding game. The winner is gonna play against the general. So we can maybe expect a scout rush this time. Yep, I will raid the enemy with scouts, it makes sense with that civilization of course. Which is a cavalry one. And for Odette as Teutonic, I would say that it will probably go for 2 outer ranges. At least going scout with Teutonics makes no sense. So let's see if with that strategy consisting in going for scout, Promi tends to go fast feudal age like it does for archery range strategy. Indeed, as for a scout rush it would make sense. Okay, so 22 population to reach feudal age. So it's gonna make a decent feudal age time to go for a scout rush. Okay, for his first attempt, Odette didn't find its opponent. Okay, the good point for Odette is it already defined the stable, so it should respond with pikeman as soon as it can. Well, this tower is really doing the job, actually. And, okay, Promi is researching Castle Age. And we don't see, oh yes, we see one out of range. Well, the kill ratio must be devastating actually. Oh yes, I forgot that it can research cavaliers in Castle Age as Burgundians. And I think that that tower probably killed like 40 units, something like that. At this point, I think that Promi just should launch its attack. TC. Okay, at least we've got forging plus skull mail for pikemen, but I'm not sure it will be enough against those cavaliers. Okay, the fight is not too bad eventually. And I'm surprised to see that, okay, we've got eventually 2 stables. I think that the stables were delayed just because Odette was more focused on researching pikemen plus crossbows. But the score is really scary at this point. It's clearly because of the kill ratio. And for some reason Bunkin Arrow is missing for the crossbows. I don't know why. Well, I'm scared that there is a problem with the scroll rules for that. Okay, it does eventually have Bunkin Arrow. A third barrack. Okay. Okay, let's check. Oh, that is researching Imperial Age, okay. I didn't expect this. That would be a crazy comeback if Odette managed to win that game, just because Promi is a bit late this time. I think that Odette is attacking a bit too early because it doesn't have the Imperial Age upgrade at this point. While its opponent has already Cavaliers. Well, I think that anyway Promi will win. Okay, so here we go. Both are Imperial Age. But I think that Promi is gonna be unstoppable now. Yeah, Paladin is coming. Re-put it. I think that defensive tower around the forest, which was a great defense for Promi, just gave the victory to Promi. So GG. Yeah, it's GG. So we've got Promi against the General. With that victory 3-2 for Promi. Okay, I think that overall, Promi did make a good use of those new civilizations, Sicilian, Burgundians, etc. So that's a pretty decent series, I would say. Okay, so just check the bracket. Yeah, it's interesting to notice that Promi won with Poles, Sicilian, and Burgundians. So the LBE will oppose Promi against the General. The winner of that match will reach the final of the loser bracket against the loser between Rehoboam and Barbarian. So let's say that we are close to the end of this event. And we've got our top 4, Rehoboam, Barbarian, Promi and the General. Panda Tuto and Odette being a top 6, so not too bad. So thank you guys for having watched, and see you for next games.